Speaking to the mic.
All right, the roll call, all our members are present. If everybody will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? A second? All right. All in favor? Aye. Has everybody had a chance to read the great meeting minutes that we received? Nice and early, thank you. Second? All in favor? Aye. Next, we go to Lou Kilmer for an update of everything that's happening in town.
All right, we had a meeting of the Non-Residential Design Review Committee on March 11th to deal with Sandy Pony Donuts. It's a new sign. This is the old shortstop facility. So they had some new signage go in, new owners. That met both the criteria for the Non-Residential Design Review Committee as well as the town sign ordinance, and it was passed unanimously. Moving on to yesterday's town council meeting, I'll sum it up by it was the most technical meeting I ever sat in my entire life. The whole focus was on wireless technology, both in the right-of-way and out of the right-of-way, as well as private issues. The regulations were done by a law firm that specializes in this. So it was reviewed not only by us, but it was also reviewed by Verizon and the other major carriers, and they were all on board with what we're doing. We originally had them as ordinances, but we changed them to resolutions. With the logic behind that is there's constant changes from the FCC, and every time they would make a change, we'd have to change our ordinances, and a resolution is a lot easier to do from that perspective. And it also makes everyone aware in the community, and also various vendors and suppliers of wireless technology, of what our intents were and what's important to us. So that was the focus of the meeting yesterday. And again, I would say it was extremely difficult to read all that stuff, highly technical, and but again, it was reviewed by all the major players, from the of the wireless technology. I think it's important for us to have those regulations in place, especially when someone comes in and wants to do something that would be an issue for the town, and from aesthetics to also placing them in places where it would be an eyesore. So at least everyone knows exactly where the town is on these issues. And also they would have to follow them to get a building permit. That was really the major thrust of yesterday's meeting.
Thank you. Does the public have any comments of the commission?
I can get back to you on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Lou, I saw a notice for a special meeting of the town council about acquisition of wetlands. Did that occur? And can you
yes,
speak
I'm
to
sorry.
it?
I forgot about it. Yes. The current property that we own from Mr. What's his name? We came out. Mr. Walchuk. That's a 12.63 acres of property that the town bought a number of years ago, basically to prevent it from being developed. And it is partial wetlands, but as you remember, up in North Bethany along Route 1, they put a development in there on top of wetlands. They built a road on top of the wetlands, on pilings. So it just shows you that it's quite possible, even though the property is a wetland, there's ways of getting around it. So we took that. There was another piece of property that came up. It's 2.7 acres that's adjacent to that. So that came on the market for $249,000. And the town is in the process of purchasing that property, and that would be then part of the municipal open space recreational and educational zoning district. Again, taking that off the possibility of being developed, and that would be extremely a valuable piece of property to buy because the entrance is on 2nd Street to the property, but if you think about it. That strip of land behind it is the Walcheck property, so that can never be developed. So that would be a very nice piece of property to develop because it's basically surrounded by wetlands and protected. It would never, nothing would be in your backyard. So that's one of the reasons we took it off. And thanks to John Apple for finding that out. He did all the hard work, and we're in the process of doing that. So. Thank for him for doing that.
Susan got the initial call.
Oh, I'm sorry, Susan. I was, both of you. How about that? Well, thank you, Susan, for doing that too. I didn't realize that, but we were on top of it. The staff got onto it, got the town manager on board, and the council came on board. I think that was a really good detective work, and we jumped on it pretty rapidly because it would sell pretty. It hadn't gone on the market yet, so it hadn't been advertised yet. So
we're going to buy the property.
yes,
The reason I asked about that was precisely the concern you raised about what they did up the road.
yeah,
That an energetic developer would find a piece of property like that, and we wouldn't be in a position to stop them from doing it.
yeah. I think it's capable of about putting 3 to 5 houses on that. Susan?
It depends on how you look at it. There's a lot of issues with it.
Yeah.
One would be they'd have to then do a PRD,
Yeah,
right? Well, I don't know that that's possible because although I don't have the actual delineation of the wetlands, I know on the wall check the federal goes right up to Garfield. So I'm assuming that the federal goes all the way up through this property as well. In order to develop it, they'd have to get, I'm guessing, because I don't think there's any uplands in there, they'd have to get a nationwide permit.
right.
Since it's one lot, they could only get one nationwide permit. If you remember,
Oh, yes, that's
Mr. Walczek tried to divide it up so that he could get several of them.
right.
Because you're only allowed to fill 1/10 of an acre.
Right,
So that's number one. I don't know how many they could get in there with just 1/10 of an acre
Gotcha.
being filled.
but more than one.
Possibly 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
But I still think it'd be extremely difficult. So first, it's the nationwide permit issue. Second is if it's not a PRD, they don't have the frontage
Yes.
to do more than one. So it would be a challenge.
Yeah, but still, that was a good buy.
Oh, yeah.
Price-wise.
very, extremely.
Yeah,
Because somebody would develop it, but
Yes,
we don't
absolutely.
know how. And
Yeah.
so it'd be a challenge.
yeah. All right, did I answer your question, John?
All right, any more questions from the general public or the commissioners? Okay, we'll move along. New business. Consideration of an application for relocation of lot line between properties identified as lots 100 and 101, block 28 at 604 and 606 Pondview Drive in the R1 zoning district. Susan? And Susan, all of Lou's questions he wants answered. Are
I'm
there any
sorry.
notifications or anything of this?
Yes, all the
Okay.
notifications were done on this. George and Dana Worthington, owners of lots 100 and 101, block 28, known as 604 and 606 Pondview Drive, respectively, are requesting that the property line dividing the two lots be changed. The lots were partitioned by the Planning and Zoning Commission in April 2015. Based upon the information they provided, both lots are zoned R1 residential and combined have a total area of 11,623 square feet. The lots front on Pondview Drive and abut the salt pond and a canal on two sides. The lot area includes the area beyond the bulkhead. The lots were originally partitioned in April 2015 by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The property line dividing the two lots was a straight line between the lots at a point that gave Lot 100 exactly 40 feet of frontage on Pondview Drive. Lot 100 is rectangular in shape, and Lot 101 is irregular, narrowing toward the canal. The usable width of Lot 101, not including the area beyond the bulkhead, goes from 25 feet to 15 feet at the bulkhead. The applicant is proposing to alter the lot line at the rear to increase the width of the rear yard of Lot 101 to approximately 20 feet at the bulkhead on the canal. This will alter the width of Lot 100 to approximately 30 feet in width. Lot 101, known as 606 Pondview Drive, is an improved lot with a single-family dwelling and detached shed. Currently, the lot consists of approximately 6,271 square feet and has 60.74 feet of frontage on Pondview Drive. Setbacks are shown as 20 feet in the front, 7 feet on each side, and 15 feet in the rear, abutting the canal lagoon. The lot area will increase to approximately 6,711 square feet. Lot 100, known as 604 Pondview Drive, is an unimproved lot. The lot area will decrease to 5,003 square feet. Pursuant to Appendix 3, Table of Dimensional Requirements in the R1 district, the minimum street frontage for interior lots is 40 feet, and the minimum lot area for single dwelling lots is 5,000 square feet. And a copy of the proposed change was attached. Any questions?
Yes, Susan, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We partitioned this 6 years ago,
Yes.
so is there new owners who have come in and want to go back to how it was originally?
I'm sorry, the
I
question.
mean, why are we combining this?
We're changing that lot line slightly. If you look at I think it should be in red,
Right.
where they're changing the lot line in the rear. And I believe that Mr. Worthington has sold the property, or it's in the process of being sold, but the purpose of this change was to widen his backyard, and at the time, he was considering putting a pool in.
Oh, I see.
So he just wanted to widen the rear part of his property.
Gotcha.
So we're still having them partitioned, but they're just slightly widening at the rear part of the property, because it's kind of a triangle.
I see what we do. So really that's, yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Susan, when we did this back in 2015, we didn't have any special requirements on their change at that point, did we?
No, they both still met all the requirements of a lot in an R1 district. And I think that it was done the way it was in 2015. He just made one rectangular lot and took the other lot, which was considerably large, just as whatever was left over, not considering how narrow it got as you went toward the canal.
Okay, thank you. John?
Mr. Chairman, I have a pure layman's question. By doing this, we reduce the size of the smaller lot to 5,003 square feet,
Yes.
that's 3 square feet more than what the requirement is. And as long as people are comfortable that no one would challenge that at some point to say, we don't think that lot is 5,000, so that it couldn't be built on. I was just struck by the precision at which we got to within 3 square feet of what the minimum was. And I'm not opposed at all, but I want to be sure that we're not potentially setting us up for a controversy because someone challenged the square footage of the new survey.
Not that I'm aware of. As you can see on the survey, it is an irregular shaped lot, and it does go out beyond the bulkhead, but they are both buildable lots. You can see they've laid out the building restriction lines, and it's still sizable enough for development. And once a lot is plotted in the town, it's considered a buildable lot.
That's why it was a layman's question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, John, if you think about it, many of these lots east of Route 1 are exactly 5,000 square feet. Not a foot more or a foot less. So,
Understand.
yeah.
I didn't want us putting our toe into the water
No, I understand, but
without-
yeah. It just happened
without
to be.
knowing what we were doing.
Yeah, I think she pointed out, Susan pointed out, the irregular shape of the lot makes it, come up with these exact, 3 feet over, so,
Well, he probably moved the line to as much as he could get over
right.
to make that work, so that's how it
Yes.
came up to that.
I asked that question based on personal experience. I have a property in Bethany West, and when we bought that property, there was no house next to us. And we had a garbage can enclosure on our lot. And when someone bought the lot next to us, their surveyor showed that where our cans were was right on their property line. And we went on for 20 years about whose can it was and so forth. So I was just concerned about getting the stake in the right place. Thank you.
What you stated is not unusual. We see that quite a bit. When empty lots are then surveyed, and there's a lot of trash can containers are moved over. So,
Well, after 20 years of jostling with my neighbors, I finally had my builder build a garbage enclosure enough for both cans for both properties, and we
There you
just
go.
left it where it was.
there you go.
Stopped arguing about what color it should be painted.
Well, those surveys that were done 30 or 40, 50 years ago are somewhat suspect.
Thank you.
Loosey-goosey, okay.
Well, we get them all the time here when we have to send them to Board of Adjustment because the survey said it was 7 feet, but now the new survey says it's 6 point, well, now I can approve those, but, in the past, it's 6.2, so, yeah, they're getting much better.
Yeah, lasers, there you go. So, are there any questions from the general public on this? Okay. Any more comments from the Planning Commission? All right. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission approve the application for relocation of a lot line between properties identified as lots 100 and 101, Block 28, at 604 and 606 Pondview Drive in the R1 zoning district.
Okay, any comments? Do I have a second motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Okay, thank you. Now we go to our favorite spot, Mr. Kilmer, old business on the,
Yes, thank you. Just as a reaffirmation, first of all, thank you for the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission who submitted some of the information that I requested. I would really like us to focus on those two areas that I talked about, our current goals, and like what John did, and Kathy and Diane. I'd like to have a statement from the Planning and Zoning Commission that I can then use to update the plan and put it in there. First, but I'd like to have something, a single document from the Planning and Zoning Commission about those two areas. One, how we did, but a single document, not for each individual. How we did with the current goals, and then give me a list of what needs to be done in the future direction of the town. I will then incorporate that into the plan, and I'll take care of all the tables and all the charts to be updated, as well as all the verbiage, the fill-in verbiage for the entire document. But I need a single document from the Planning and Zoning Commission on those two issues. So,
Lou, do you have an idea how you'd like to have that accomplished
well,
at the meeting?
yeah, I mean,
I think that's the only way we can do it.
I think that, among yourselves, as the Planning Zone, it's the Planning Zone Commission's responsibility to do this plan.
That's correct.
And so I would like to have, those goals discussed, a plan, those, and then a single document coming from to dealing with, how we've done in existing goals, and then what our future goals are. And then I'll take that from the Planning and Zoning Commission and put that in, and then we can review the whole document like that. And I'll take a responsibility again for all the charts and tables. So, but that's what I still need.
Okay.
A single document.
Any ideas, comments from the members? John?
Mr. Chairman, two of the members of the commission put together a document. It says Bethany Beach 2012-22 Comprehensive Plan 2017 update. I think it was Diane and Kathy.
Yes.
That goes through all of the recommendations. And they have articulated or commented on all of those items. And it would be, I would suggest that if we need a starting point, that we start with their document. I had put together some thoughts also, which I think using their document as the core document would give us a way forward in a way that we could all come to an agreement.
Please, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Yeah. So that's
And-
something that the Planning and Zoning Commission can work on. And again, use the Kathy's and Diane's as the working document, and also yours.
Right.
But to come up with a
One-
single document from not individuals, because I don't want to keep on rewriting this all the time. No. If that's a possibility.
But that would be my suggestion, because we got a Word document, if you will, that we can work off of, rather than each of us taking a pot shot at different things and then trying to bring it together.
Exactly.
If we started with this would be our starting point.
Diane?
The outline, basically, and then we all can fill in individually.
Okay, do we have copies of that?
Yeah,
We can actually share it as like a Google Doc online, and then it lives. This is gonna make me sound like I know what I'm doing technologically. I don't, but it would live online, and then you could just edit it there, and it's not like you're working on it on your computer, and then so there'd be one copy of it, and whoever's working on it, if they're working on it at 3:15 in the morning, that one copy still exists. That's the only copy, and everyone is editing it there. I can take care of setting that up so that it's easy and straightforward.
Here's a troglodyte talking about this, but like Microsoft Teams, you can have this document on file, and everybody would have the opportunity to make their comments and all, and it would all stay there, and then we could just collect it back. Are we on the same page, Scott?
Yeah, same thing. The document lives in the cloud. There is no it's not on someone's computer somewhere. It's everyone can access it at any time with an internet action. Everyone who's invited to access it can access it anytime. Same thing as Microsoft Teams. Yeah.
I mean, don't ask me to figure out how to do that. I've seen them, and I'm working on some other groups where you have a common site that each of us could go to. We don't have to send it to everybody and so forth.
Mike, is that something that, the Planning and Zoning Commission could do, and then that, when you guys are all done with that, making all your final comments, then send that document to me, and then I'll incorporate it into the plan?
Well, first of all, I don't have a copy of the document, so if I could get one. Yeah, is that an extra one, or? Oh, can we get a copy made? Is it? Oh, yeah, never mind. I guess we can. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Not to be too structured, we really have to, I think with the 10-year plan, because it is such an official, usable document by the state, we have to be careful about having any appearance of behind doors, which I don't think we will if we're discussing. Well, that's
this-
just, yeah,
No,
just my
but
feeling.
this is all discussed in public. It's just a matter of getting it together with one
No,
voice.
I understand. What I'd like to do, yeah, I have no problem with that, doing it that way. That'll save a lot of time in here if everybody has their comments up, and then Lou gets a document that then in the open forum that we can go ahead and critique or whatever and take comments. I wouldn't mind going a little bit just through this very quickly without rewriting it, so that we have a general idea, and if there are any major concerns or something that somebody sees that we should add, make a note of that. We've only gone a half hour, so we're well within my trying to get it at an hour. And plus, when we review the 10-year plan, that never seems to happen. So I'd like to do that if I can get an agreement with the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with proceeding that way. At the last meeting, as an example, using housing, we had a discussion about efforts at affordable housing. And both Kathy and Diane came up with some language to add to what's in the current document. And so if we just keep doing that, that would be helpful. But you guys already did your homework assignment. If I'm not mistaken, you sent out a modification that said that we would keep working on it or whatever, so.
So the way this would work is, in that situation, you would make that sentence or those sentences on that Google Doc, and then it would go out to everyone, and we could look at it and say, that's perfect, but we should change this to and instead of a or whatever, and like whoever's looking at it then can make that change right then, and then alert everyone that change has been made. And so it's a really streamlined way to just kind of keep working on one document that 7 people could be working on one document at the same time, essentially. And then I guess the way it would work so that it would be in the public is we would just kind of read those notes that were made in the last month at the current meeting. I'm just sketching that out loud. I don't know.
No, Scott, as well as seeing the entire document. I mean, I'm saying, I mean, so that would be, a public, to mirror the public also. So it's not, while we're not initially working together to come up with a common set of goals and accomplishments, but ultimately everything is going to be in the public. So it's not, I don't think we have to worry about that issue. Because we're also going to ask the public for their input. But like I find that it's best for people to read things rather than ask them what their ideas are. In other words, these are some of the ideas that we have in paper. But people just, it's hard for people to say, well, this is what I'd like to see. But if they read something, they say, yeah, I like that, but how about this also? It's much easier to do it from that perspective than ask somebody just straight out and say, what would you like the town to do in the future? They need something, a catalyst to sit there and get their thoughts together. I think it's always easier that way, quite honestly.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lou, and since the commission appointed you to run this task force, whatever you want done and how you want it done,
Well, no, remember, I'm not a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
we understand that, but
Yeah.
we asked you to
I'm the
put it
liaison.
together.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the first time we did it, we had the University of Delaware do a lot of stuff for us, and then the commission went ahead and modified and approved, and we'll continue to do it that
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
But I look at you as the entire University of Delaware this time,
All right.
because you work cheaper. So,
I'm giving you all a PhD in comprehensive plans when I'm done.
yeah, around here, you may need a psychology
like-
PhD.
Like, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but if we could just do that part, as a single document from this group, and then all the other stuff I will take care of.
Yeah. Okay, what's the pleasure of the Planning and Zoning Commission? Did we want to go? Yeah, I'm sort of said we would, but then I'm just going to ask, do you want to go through this for the next half hour or so, or we just want to wait until it's put up on the computer and then do it then?
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we go through this because they've got it laid out as to what the goal is in it, what we've accomplished, and then plan for the future. And so we would begin, if we go goal by goal, we would begin to fill out what's going to end up being the final product to be incorporated.
Like that? Any comments?
I just realized that you already have it in a Google Doc, right? It's already, it's already up there. It's already. I wrote a note that I need to do something. I don't even have to do it. It's already up there. So we can edit it right from where they shared it from before.
Okay.
We may need some technical assistance.
Okay.
Because
Maybe not, but I'll.
right now, it just
Yeah,
exists
we'll
as a
call you,
Word
Scott.
document.
Okay.
And some of us retired early enough to miss out on the whole Google sharing experience.
Including me.
So I'm not quite I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't know how to really pull it off.
Okay, I can make it happen.
Okay.
Good.
So we're going to go through this document.
Yep.
Let's start under the major goals. You know, I mean, the general statement is fine. I don't have a problem with your general statement. And the 2 and 3 population, I'll take care of that. Under housing goals, I'm a member of ACTS, you know, the Association of Coastal Towns. It says the town will work with ACTS. I don't think so. That's never even an issue that comes up among ourselves because we're all dealing with the same issue, all the coastal towns. So it's not like there's a single plan, you know, that ACTS has for coastal towns. Obviously, Rehoboth and Fenwick Island, South Bethany have their own unique issues. So it's not something that I personally feel that that's not a source to go to for doing that. I think we have to, actually, Scott, I know you, you know, I would like to see your input on this because you have a lot of background dealing with other towns through your career and your businesses. So I think you'd be, from my perspective, you'd be very important for how do we make the legislators know that we're doing everything we possibly can without just basically washing our hands, you know, and say, you know, mea culpa, I can't do anything. So I think that's the focus I think should be for the housing issue of this is what we can do, these are our limitations, this is the best we can proceed, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can't totally know what we're going to do in 2031 today. So my intention would be, or the way I would tackle it is to just put some sentences out there that say this is what we're going to try to do. Not exactly what we're going to try to do, but that we're going to try to address it in some way. So it might not be that we're going to work with ACTS or whomever. It's just going to be we're going to set out to do something good in this arena. You know, so that's the basic sentence structure, right? Just we recognize it as a problem. We're going to reach out. It could be like possible ways to reach out are these things, but it might not be so direct as like we're going to call Rehoboth and together we're going to solve this problem. Like that may never happen.
It can't.
And if you get that specific about it and you hit a roadblock there, it'll never happen. So, you know, my thought is like this document is sort of like your dream journal, right? You're just saying we would really love to do these things. So
and also recognize the fact that we do recognize the issue of affordable housing in a coastal community.
Right, and that it's not that the town of Bethany Beach can solve affordable housing, but the town of Bethany Beach can also not do nothing to solve affordable housing. So it's the sentence is somewhere in there, and I realize it's a really gray, amorphous thing, but this is what I do at the office too. I just throw out big ideas, and then like somebody else, you guys figure it out. So I don't mean to saddle anybody with that. I just mean like we can do something if we put our minds to it.
Scott, let me ask a question in terms of mechanics. The recommendation number 1 that's in our document on housing, is that in a Word document or is that somewhere that could be placed in the document we're going to work off of? In other words,
you have the 2017 plan as a Word document.
okay, so
And you have, it's been sent to everybody, correct? Well,
I think it was
would
before
you
the
send it
last
out? Would you send it out again in case? Or you know, will you tell Andrea or Molly whether you have the 2017 plan as I had him send it out, so I know I have it. I hope everybody else has it. But if you don't, let them know, and then we'll send it to you. And you can address it right directly in that document.
but wouldn't it be better if we take the electronic version of this and get it on the site where we can all work off of that same,
Yes,
the language there, right? I've got a copy of the 2017, but we don't need each one of us to rewrite the recommendation that's in there. If that gets into,
well, someone has, like Kathy and Diane have, but someone's got to start the discussion that you can either add to it or subtract to it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Someone's got to start the discussion. So if one person starts it, then everybody can either add their 2 cents into it, and to the point where you come up together, this is what we want to do.
I'm not arguing with you, Lou,
I know you're not.
but the recommendation that they put on housing, they're reading from what was in the document. So we need to start with what's in the document somewhere, and I'm just not sure where that, I'm not making myself clear. Because I made some recommendations like on housing,
Yeah, that's all.
but I did that by reading what was here and then just commenting on it. We need recommendation 1, affordable housing strategy, in our working document. And I'm not sure that that's done yet.
That's simple enough to do. So with the Word document, I can even put the original 2017, or Andrea can, like the Word document in the Google folder that we'll all share. So you could just go to you could go to page 34 of this document, take a whole paragraph, put it in there, or Lou can do that when he's chopping it up and making the final version. But in any case, it'll be simple enough to like copy and paste whole sections if you need to.
Well, we need to do that for all of the recommendations.
Correct.
Yeah.
And all the future recommendations,
No.
and all
Right.
the current goals and accomplishments. That's the area that I want everyone to focus on. So the rest, I can take care of that. It's just, I need that 2 sections, which are the most important sections, by the way. That's what the state looks at. They don't read the rest of the document. They look at that, you know, so.
So John, what I can do, I think I have the 2017 document. If not, I'll email you and ask for it. I'll make a Google folder and then I'll give everybody instructions on how to access it.
Please, yes.
I'm not the most technologically advanced. I still draw by hand, so it's easy. If I was able to figure it out, everybody can figure it out. It's not a act of computer science. So and then those 2 documents will be there. Any other document we need to load up can be there. Your suggestions, their suggestions can all be in one place, and you can copy and paste or borrow heavily from or whatever.
Do you have to download any apps to do that?
No.
All right.
Okay. If we're going to go through it, let's go through it.
One of the focus I noticed on Kathy's and Diane's, we have to take things and we'll refer to the county and some of the other organizations. We're our own corporate limits. We have our own rules here, and actually the county doesn't deal with municipalities. There are only 57 in the state, so they really, you have your own rules and your own how you want to do things, and they stay out of it. So we can't reference them in this document because it's not an appropriate thing to reference them. When we're dealing with housing and stuff, it's really, we can reference them from the standpoint of view that these are things that they would like to see, maybe the state and the county level, but really it's our purview to deal with those things. So we can't say we're going to work with them because they're not going to work with us. So it doesn't work that way. Same with ACTS and stuff. ACTS is really, a different kind of, it started out with Sussex County Association of Towns. which dealt with the entire county, which I'm also a part of. But ACTS realized early on that, or I should say, the 7 coastal communities realized they have very specific and different requirements and issues that, like Seaford and Bridgeville don't have those issues. So that's why they created a separate organization that focused on the unique challenges and issues that relate to coastal communities. And again, we have to look at it as Bethany Beach is the only town that we're dealing with. You know, not say we're going to work with ACTS or going to work with SCAT. While we can engage with them, but it's really not something that, I go to all the meetings, that's nothing ever brought up for any other town. So it's really, our focus had to be on the property owners and residents of the town. It also meets the state and county guidelines if there are such things.
So I'm realizing the part about affordable housing, when we talked about it at our last meeting, was like, just the notion was, well, we can't solve it within the town limits, but we can talk with other municipalities. So how would we say something like that? Like that maybe it's not specifically ACTS, but it's like we recognize that this isn't a problem that can be solved within the town limits of Bethany Beach, but we will effort to discuss this problem with neighboring communities. And
Again, that's a challenge. Yes, I mean, it's always good to be talking with them, but in a town like Susan will say, we're basically built out here for the most part. There's, the only thing that we can do, I know I talked about this last time, that we can do is basically create affordable housing that has to be sponsored by somebody. In other words, at the cost of property here in Bethany Beach, to make it affordable housing, it'd have to be subsidized in some way. Is that something that the approach we want to take? Have it subsidized by either some organization, the town or the county, or, I mean, that's the reality check, isn't it, really?
well, I think that's a lot to solve in a 6-month session where we're trying to write a comprehensive plan. So what I would suggest is, like, again, you're just saying, like, this is something we want to try to tackle in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And then you have the next 10 years to try to figure out what you're going to implement, what it is. So it'd be great if we come up with whatever the solution is in the next 6 months. The reality is we're probably going to be still at the identifying problems phase. So whatever language we come up with should be like, these are problems, we're going to work to find
Yes,
solutions.
and that's the only thing, I think that's the emphasis should be, that we haven't given up. We're always looking for ways of dealing with. I mean, there's not something that can be solved in 6 months or even a couple of years. We don't know, quite honestly. It's a challenge for most of the coastal communities. Just because of this becomes, a vacation area, high rents, very expensive acquisition of property. So, I mean, they have to know that in the state and also in the county, but I think that what they want to do is not say, we just washed our hands and moved on. And I think that's where I think you have a little expertise in the language that way, so. But just my recommendation.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know I'm beating it into the dirt, but I feel like if we just say parking, for instance, is hard to solve, there's no land we're built out, forget it. We just can't solve it. Well, then we won't. We won't do anything, and we'll be back in the same place in 2031 or 2032 when we're redoing this. So, or when I'm redoing this. I would hope that you're all still here with me redoing it, but yeah.
I just want to be here. I'm not sure my location is necessary. Okay. Again, everybody just keep in mind, if we start with the solution, we need a problem. All right, so just focus on that. I would not like to start solving problems that we don't have.
No.
That's definitely nothing that we want to do.
I think the only thing I think we really have to do is recognize we know there's a problem. It's a difficult issue. Where every opportunity that comes along that possibly that can help, we'll investigate it and review it, and not just do Pontius Pilate on us.
Yeah, I agree with Scott. I mean, yeah, one solution is take our hotel, do a New York City solution. Take the hotel, and that's going to be for low income from now on. And but let's talk about realistic things also.
Yeah.
So okay, all righty, moving along, or moving.
I think the land use acquisition is good. In fact, we'll add the acquisition of that another 2.7 acres to that. I don't think we have to deal anything with that. We can take care of that the way it is. There's also the government services and facilities. Overall, I don't have any problem with that either. From the standpoint of view, well, that's kind of true, and we're still moving on with that. In fact, I think you.
One thing I would request, anytime we use a governmental like acts, we ought to the first time we use it, we should
Yes,
spell
yeah,
specifically
yeah.
what it is.
Of course.
If you say acts around here, most people think we're dealing with the people up the road. Where you, acts, where you
Oh, I see. Oh, I got you.
where you get your
Oh, I got.
donations.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the only one that all the others are actually.
I know.
Identified. That-
Well, I noticed that. That's why.
Yeah.
You know, when I saw
No,
the acts.
that's not a problem. That's not a problem.
Anybody
That's
else have a comment on that? This is not to say you can't comment later, but if you see something stand out that you want to include, that'll be food for thought for everyone.
And plan for the future, we can deal with that. We're in the process of signing a contract with Comcast. So there'll be a second provider for internet service. This is all for plan for the future, dealing with government services and facilities. So that's something we can add to the mix. And I guess Susan, under 6, the water waste management, stormwater, could you check with Ron Freeman if there's any comments he'd like to make? Yeah, on that section. And I guess Brett too with the stormwater. Under 7, transportation, again, that's a sticky issue here in the state of Delaware anyway. One of the issues that we still have to deal with and have to be clarified, in the summertime, working with our trolleys, to move people around, it really is see what's going to happen, what kind of rules or restrictions coming from the governor about the use, because we could put two or three people on that trolley every day. Every time you go around. So we got to get better understanding of what we can do and what we can't do with the trolleys this summer. So that's another issue. But as far as, transportation supplied by either the state or outside vendors, I mean, that's, that's again, this is one of these things that Scott, like affordable housing. It's not something that the town is in the business to do. So
Lou, but on transportation, has there been any indication from the state or others about changes that they're looking at in terms of public transportation? You know, like you got DART and so forth.
Yes.
Has there been any discussions with Bethany Beach about additional services that might be coming, the possibility of integrating those services with our existing trolley system?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is that something that if we were to put something in this, that the town would be willing to look at talking to them?
I could pass this to the town manager, but I mean, I don't exactly know what we would be gaining there.
I mean, as an example, all of these new communities that have come up around us, many of them now have like their own shuttles.
For the summer only.
For the summer only, right. But an effort with DelDOT and all to try to coordinate those shuttles and all, so that I don't know if there would be a location where they could come and with people coming to the town and get on our trolley and go around, as an example, just to help resolve parking problems and so forth. I mean, that may be a bridge too far, and I'm not looking to create something in here that can't happen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think you're nailing the head. I mean, the only reason these other communities have these shuttle services, because there's a parking issue in our town, and they provide the service at a cost. You know, it's not free, at a cost to their developments, but it's all centered not on transportation per se. It's because there's no parking downtown. So it's a kind of a different concept about getting people to their stores and and wherever they want to go. But they're very limited transportation systems that focused on one location. So yeah, again, it's like the affordable housing thing. It's a difficult thing for us. I don't think these towns would. First, I don't know whether they would like to coordinate at a state level, number one. Because I don't know how reliable it would be and what the cost would be and how it would work, and is it more complicated than what they already have now? I don't know. See, a lot of these things, they look at these towns like these coastal communities and think we're Wilmington or Newark or Middletown, where you have a big municipal area with a large population, year-round population, where you can have these are affordable because you'll have a tax base to pay for them, and here we have a transient population, and it makes the things difficult. Again, hence why ACT was created. I find it very personally frustrating to deal with something that the state basically puts a one plan for the entire state of Delaware. You kind of follow this is the blueprint to use, but it's very difficult to sit there and blend it into what Wilmington does or Newark does, and it's more difficult from that perspective.
Well, let me try a sentence on you, not for the language of it, but as an example of something we might insert. So we're talking about transportation and all. If we as a group agreed that a sentence such as explore with county and state agencies ways of addressing traffic surge in summer months and alternative parking arrangements and shuttle services to the beach. is that a bridge too far in terms of one of our recommendations on our goals? To
Well-
just simply put that there to make it clear that we were, whether we got there or not, we were ready to explore all these options? Or is
Well,
that,
I would, if I may, I would say that we identify affordable housing, which, you know, over the last 10 or 12 years that we've been dealing with this, we've tried to find out how to resolve that, and I agree, all right, let's try to keep doing that. The state has not been that much of a help in that area at all.
If I can recall at one of the meetings that you and I were at,
Yeah.
I asked them, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Tell me give me some ideas how to do that.
Yeah, well, it's one of their checklist items when
Yeah.
they look
Yeah,
at
exactly.
these plans. All right, we asked the question, we told you what to do. But parking, almost 25 or 30% of the time that the town talks about anything, it's parking.
Yeah.
And parking has to, in my opinion, be a specific portion or a specific goal, if you will, of this plan. We have to talk about it. At least in parking, there are ways that are available to us, you know, some of them are screwy, but available to us to help resolve or lessen the problem of parking. So one of my recommendations would be either it goes specifically as a bullet under transportation, or it has its own special section, because that's what people in the town of Bethany Beach, and that's who we're dealing this for, not just the state to meet their checklist of, you got a 10-year plan, but the citizenry of the town always has a problem with parking. The other problem with, the other situation with parking is the town government itself. We depend on the revenue from parking as a substantial part of our budget. So we have two situations where if you ask the town people two separate questions. One, what do we do with the parking? They say only people who live in the town of Bethany Beach can park here. And only those people, no renters, no, that would be the easiest thing, because then they'd be taken care of. But if you ask the question about, well, you have over $1 million or up to $2 million a year in parking revenue, you want your taxes to go up, or whatever you want. That creates a whole different scenario as to what we want to do. So without prolonging this diatribe, we've got to mention parking as either a specific standalone goal or one of the bullets under transportation. I asked some comments from the commission on that one.
I think they're tied together. I mean, that's why we run the trolleys, because we do recognize that the issue is, especially for the outside communities as well as their property owners and vacationers here, that parking is an issue. And it's becoming even more difficult during the pandemic, because you also have to take care of our businesses and recognize their issues. Like, for instance, all the 15-minute parking that we created here, which is lost revenue, but because it's almost takeout business anymore, because of the current pandemic. But these are issues that you're right, that the town has lost a significant amount of money this year. That we get over $1 million a year from parking, which is a significant amount of money for our budget each year. And fortunately, between real estate transfer tax and building permits, we basically have mitigated that losses significantly, but I mean not totally. And the town has recently got the CARES Act money of, $635,000 from the federal government. So that will also be an additional help to remedy the loss of revenue from the loss of parking and the fact that people just couldn't come here. So yeah, it is, and you're right. It's all tied together. Transportation and parking are really the same issue. um, especially during the season, the vacation season.
Now, one thing you said, Lou, and I didn't even think of it, and you're more into it than I am. The governor that if our trolley system is only carrying 3 or 4 people, at one time, that's an energy situation also. I didn't even think of it.
Yeah, I mean,
that.
yeah, because of social distancing, our trolleys aren't big, so you can't put too many people in there, unless it's, families, obviously a family gathering can sit. But, so that's another issue, and then also sanitizing every time somebody walks in and out, so it becomes a critical, right, John, with the trolleys, assuming that we're even allowed to do this year, so.
I never thought of that. That could be a problem this summer. I guess that it's your problem. But, I can see a family of 6 or 7 waiting 25, 30 minutes for the trolley to come by, and then the trolley keeps going.
Yeah, because
or we can only take 3.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What are you going to do?
Put the babies
Wow.
on.
I'm glad I don't have to solve that.
Yeah, again, these are all, but hopefully this is just a year or 2 issue, but the bigger picture that we're dealing with is, obviously a 10-year plan. But you're right. I mean, it's always it's a challenge to deal with various government agencies as we move up, from the county to the state level to the federal level. And these are all interconnected, but they're all independent. And I think a lot of people look at the coastal communities are very well off, and you should take care of your own problems. You have a good a population that's well off, very expensive homes, very expensive properties, and a lot of people look at it and say, well, why should I help them? And that's not unusual to hear that. So.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
to your original question or original comment about there being a parking section in the next plan, I agree with you.
Okay. Good.
I don't know what the language would be, but the community certainly, that's one of the things you hear most about.
Yes, but both from inside and outside. Most of our complaints come from
Oh, yeah.
people
Right.
outside of the community. So.
Right.
Just in that same genre, I've now had a couple of people in town who own full electric vehicles asking whether or not they're going to be charging stations. And I said, you're asking a question that's over my head. Put charging stations in where there's public parking. And I don't know if that's something that would be addressed in here or not, but.
Well, that's something we can talk about. To take away parking spaces for electric cars.
Again, you're
I think Rehoboth does that or something.
I think you're again taking selective spots for selective people now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the town as a whole, yeah.
Yeah. You can't park here because you have to have an electric car to park here. So I mean, a lot of them would be open all the time because how many electric cars are around there now? So less than 3% of the number of cars on the road are electric. Yeah, it's something in the future, obviously. But I mean, I don't want to keep on adding stuff that we don't have. My perspective, keep on adding stuff that is in the future, especially when no other town has even went that way, quite honestly.
I'm with you, Lou.
Yeah.
I'm reflecting what people are asking, and
Yes.
Do it at home.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if in this plan we make a recommendation that puts the town on notice that the town has to take a position that says we will charging stations will be the responsibility of private companies or whatever. In other words, There
Well-
aren't going to be charging stations in Bethany Beach, which I don't have a problem with. But
Well,
No,
I
no,
guess
actually,
my,
yeah.
it goes back, if I may, it goes back to my comment that if we, the town, don't have a problem, I don't want to try to come up with a solution until we think something's going to happen in the
Actually,
closer-
John, how that could be addressed, about what is not to be in there. When you take the plan up, after it's approved here locally, take it up, they tell you they come back to you and tell you, well, you need to fix this up a little bit, or, yeah, I want to add that. There's no sense us being proactive. I'd rather, in this
Right.
case, at the state level, reactive, not proactive, so.
That's a good way to put it.
I have a comment, too.
Yes,
We evaluated the last 10-year plan in 5 years.
correct.
So we also have some time to find out if we're going to need many more charging stations, because everyone's transferring to electric cars. I mean, we don't know right now what the case will be. We can mention it, but I think in 5 years, we may have more information from General Motors, from Ford. How many of these cars they're selling?
Well, we don't even have a gas station in town
Right.
anymore.
That's-
So, that's sort of how I look
I
at
don't
that
think we ever
subject.
had a gas station in town.
Yeah, we did.
Valero.
Up here, yeah,
Yeah.
up here,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
We had one.
Yeah, you had one, that's right.
We could, there's a couple things, but one is, I agree, Dan, with what you're saying. I mean, this is a forward-looking document. We do need to try to anticipate what the world is going to look like 5, 10 years from now. So if you imagine in 2015 or 16, Teslas weren't really like a thing. They were a thing for like people who were willing to spend $120,000 on a car. Now they're a thing for people who will spend $40,000 on a car. One way we could look at like something like that is just that the town will look to, make permitting a charging station easier for a business, so that like DeFibos could put a charging station or two in
That's
their
a great
parking lot.
idea.
So we could just look at things like that, because it also needs to adapt to, like, what if 5 years from now we're all like, oh man, we got to get a hydrogen car, I mean, or a Jetsons car, I don't know.
Just park it on Atlantic, wait for a
Just
nor'easter.
wait to blow, yeah. I wanted to go back also and just, so I guess one way to say is like we could look to how I hate to like say free market order, but the free market sort of will decide that. I agree, like if you take a parking spot away from here and say this is for Teslas only, you are limiting who can park there. On the parking issue as a whole, though, I think it should be under transportation rather than a separate thing, because I don't
Yes.
think it's solely just a parking spots
I agree.
problem. It's a trolley issue. It's a bike path issue. It's a walkable community issue. There should be a holistic solution to it, or a holistic approach to it, not a solution to it. But
Yeah, I agree.
I
totally
agree- I agree with
'Cause
that
they're
also.
actually connected, especially for a coastal community. They're connected. Yeah.
But just to back up what Diane was saying, we do have a chance to reevaluate it in 5 years, but we should be forward-looking. I don't know that we should just be like, well, let's just wait until the state tells us this is our opportunity to tell the state what we want to do. So whatever that is, we should get that on paper, and then if they say like, oh, we don't like it, like, okay, well, we tried, versus like trying to get the thing that's like easiest to go through the state. I understand I'm saying that as the person who doesn't have to go up there, but I would do it too. I would go up there with you or whatever if I had to, or I'm sure any one of us would. Maybe I just volunteer.
Oh, actually, just my experience, they never tell us to take things out. They tell us to think, you beef this up, or you need a little more work in this area. But it's not like they take things out.
So-
Generally, they don't.
So with that in mind, we can't really get in a whole lot of trouble if we put like pie in the sky things in here that we're saying these would be nice to solve. We don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to try. Like, and then if in 10 years they're like, or 5 years they're like, how'd you do? And like, we tried, like, or hey, son of a gun, we did it. We actually fixed this problem,
John has a good point that we need to at least acknowledge that this could be a problem, that people are requesting this, and that we recognize that's it, but we aren't we can't do anything about that right now.
Yeah, except, again, unique part of this, they can do that at their own home. Like, you know,
Exactly.
it's versus have to go into a gas station. So-
But if you're coming from, you know, so if you look at, like, if you're coming from DC and you're going straight to dinner somewhere, you're going straight to Sedona for dinner, and you don't, you know, and you're like, you drove your Tesla and you're right at the end of your range, or you drove your whatever, you know, Ford Mustang, whatever, and you're right at the end of your range, and you're like, well, I got to stop at my house in Millville for an hour to charge to be able to get there and get home. If I'm going to do that anyway, I'm not going to dinner.
Yeah.
So our businesses here may be like, it would be really nice to have
No,
some charging
I
stations.
think your idea is really a nice introduction to that whole area, is saying that the permitting process will you know, accommodate businesses who wish to sit there and do that. I think that's a great first approach,
Yeah.
quite honestly.
Yeah, you could even expand that, and this is a good discussion.
Yeah.
You could allow each business to purchase a parking space for the year. You know, if it costs them $10,000, that's up to them. But, you know, you could have them do something like that if they wanted to do that. But again, let's keep in mind the town of Bethany Beach. The businesses are definitely a part of the town of Bethany Beach.
Oh, absolutely.
But we still have to look at the residents of the town of Bethany Beach. It's like I've heard that the 15-minute parking has been a big hit for an awful lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
And
It was difference between some people business going out of business.
well,
Because- yeah.
and if you think about it, Lou, even beyond COVID, you know, it would be nice for people who are just going to be here 15 minutes, run in, run out, either to pick food up or just to look in the store for 15 minutes, availability that they don't have to spend, what, $2 or something an
Yeah.
hour, so.
Well, that was also a topic at our town council meeting about, you know, how we're going to do it, residents parking on street ends versus, so I think we're looking at a combination of resident parking, the park area free, but also put meters there for people who want to park close to the ocean. So, you know, have a combo situation there. That was one of the things that were discussed as a possibility there, you know, so.
Okay. Diane, did you have a question?
Yeah, my only comment would be, I'm sure the hotel would think about putting a charging station in. I mean, for
Yeah.
their, if
Yeah,
they're finding
actually,
out, if they get
they'd
calls
probably
and
be
saying,
the one.
We want to book a room, do you have a charging station too?
But but
That's
if they haven't put them in yet,
Right.
why haven't they done
Yes.
that? Because
They haven't had the
it has
request.
been moved. It's not a problem from them.
Well, the other issue, for Susan.
But it's going to be affordable housing
But
next year. so.
keep in mind where we are. I mean, I'm talking about floodplain. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's a whole different, I don't know whether any of these things
Electric snakes.
are in an area that, you know, so you can shut them all down when the next big storm comes in? Or they short themselves out? I mean, that's another issue you got to deal with. Sometimes that place is underwater. So,
Well, that's good.
Scott, I agree with you that parking is not a separate, it should be like the next recommendation under transportation. I don't know what the number is, but like after bicycle safety, we add one to address those kinds of things.
Good.
And Lou, I mean, just staying on charging stations, I don't know if Delmarva Power, if their infrastructure is strong enough to
Good point.
support, if people want to put a charging station at their house. I mean, there's 500 houses in Bethany West, and if everybody suddenly said, hey, I want to have a charging station, there's parts of Bethany West now that are in the high flood zone. Does Delmarva Power go, hey, we're not touching that because we don't want the liability of lighting somebody up like a Christmas tree if they're standing in water when they go to, and so forth. So, I mean, there's lots of issues out there,
Yes,
but
yeah, especially, our unique location, and electricity.
The key to that, though, I mean, sorry, the key to that is that Susan's got the code adjusted so that any electrical equipment has to be 1.5 feet above your floodplain at a minimum. So, that's, again, that's forward-looking. That's saying that the 100-year floodplain is a representation of what the last 100 years were like, the average. So we know with sea level rise and climate change, that's likely not to be the case for the next 100 years or even 50 years. Maybe 1.5 feet covers us for 50 years or something. So that's already happening. We have clients all the time that are like,
Yes.
I need a car charger. And if you follow the money, Delmarva Power would much rather you spend that money with them than with ExxonMobil. So they're going to figure it out. They're going to do it. But like the hotel, for instance, their whole parking garage is under the building. I'm assuming it's all within the floodplain. Probably right up to the ceiling. So that might be tough. But other places, I mean, or if there's a will, there's a way. They'll find a way. If their clients keep asking for it, they'll find it. And if the town says, we'll find a way to permit this, so long as it complies with the code and the FEMA and doesn't mess with any of our.
I think we're spending way too much time on these chargers.
Moving along, yeah. I take it my fault as
I just
the
wanted to say
chairman.
one more thing.
Okay.
The next area, we talked about, next area is the environmental protection. I think a lot of that stuff is very nice. I think we can incorporate a lot of those things that were said by Diane and Kathy directly, and yeah. In fact, it's the charging stations are mentioned in that thing here. Yeah.
I think one thing I would add to environmental protection would be, or maybe this goes under like stormwater management, is we talked about it briefly at one of our past meetings, but there is no limit on pervious area within the town on like residential developments. So I could go, we're renovating our house right now. If I wanted to, I could pave my entire lot in concrete, and there's
Okay.
nothing Susan could say about it.
You could?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm not doing that. I personally wouldn't do that, but someone will. One of my clients will call me and be like, I want my whole yard to be concrete, and I don't care what you say. And maybe not one of my clients. It's not necessarily who I would try to work with, but that's something I think we should look to address.
My personal opinion is we shouldn't wait for the 10-year plan for that.
Yeah,
we can handle, we could
I
start
think
dealing
the
with
issue
it.
of.
I thought we
of-
did.
Of what?
I thought we handled pervious and impervious.
No, there's nothing in the code that limits at-grade patios, decking, driveways at this time. Structure, anything 12 inches or higher is counted in lot coverage. Anything else is not. So there's nothing that stops someone from covering their property and taking it right to the property lines. We don't have anything.
And beyond.
No, hopefully not beyond.
Well, a lot of them take it beyond to the street.
Well, yeah, their access through our right-of-way is a constant problem for the building department, for getting people, even in renovating, we're putting, I want to just retop my driveway. I go out and tell them, you can't have this 30-foot wide driveway anymore. If you're going to redo it, then through the right-of-way goes to 20 feet. And
Yeah.
we try and keep doing that.
Well, I think, I'd like to poll just sort of an aside, the commissioner to see if that's something we'd like to look at.
Lou,
ASAP.
Didn't they look at pervious and impervious a long time ago?
Yeah, we did.
That's what I thought,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought we did something with that, but no?
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
Well,
I was gonna say,
I
I
think
must have
Lou
been-
is the chairman then, so I got,
I must have been asleep because I thought we had, in fact,
that's what I thought.
addressed
Yeah, I thought so
covering
too,
as,
actually.
How?
it had to be pervious. You couldn't put impervious.
That's what I thought.
No.
Let me dig it up, let me see if I have it in my own file, so.
Okay, I don't have anything,
Huh,
It's, yeah, I mean, it's not in the code.
I remember it as being something that came up, and I think it came up with some of this group, but it came up a long time ago too, and we determined that the horse was really out of the barn at this point. Nobody was in favor of it, and it kind of, I think, died. That's my recollection of it.
All right.
Because I don't think there was an
I'd like to
ordinance.
resurrect it.
Yeah, it's only gonna get worse.
Could,
yeah, I agree.
Well, it's getting worse now because the big thing is pools, and they're putting huge patios and pools and stuff now and covering. But I hadn't had a big problem with it before, but it is coming up now as
Yeah,
well, I
would
think
say
from
it's-
an environmental standpoint, as you pointed out, Scott, that's probably something we should be taking care of soon. My opinion is, I know I'm throwing my opinion out here as opposed to everybody's, but,
We should
I'd
do
like
it
to
as a
see it.
separate, it's a separate item.
pardon?
We should put that as a separate item on the agenda,
Exactly, that's what I was getting ready to ask
Yeah.
Susan, if we could,
outside of the comprehensive
something.
plan, outside of the
well,
comprehensive
we
plan.
they did that study too that we were
Yeah.
involved in, and it turned out that we looked at the maps were all incorrect, right? We had somebody else look at them. Yeah, that they did. They didn't, because they don't know that our streets are pervious now in certain areas, so.
I thought that's when we talked about it, around that same time when we were talking about the streets.
That could be.
Even before, even maybe a little
And I think
before
we were
that.
comparing what Rehoboth was doing and other places that were doing, Dewey were doing. I think that came up.
Okay.
Could you write something up for us to look at?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Kathy.
That's a little vague.
Okay, well, I'll be more vague, less vague after Kathy speaks.
I wonder if the ad hoc flooding, is it flooding committee, ad hoc flooding committee, would have some recommendations to make as they continue to meet about this?
Yeah, or ask them to look at how other communities deal with impervious surfaces, and maybe just, use that as a framework of saying, maybe this is things that we should consider. Because obviously, comes under that purview. It's a direct relationship between impervious surface and flooding and waste, and stormwater damage, so, yeah. Are you on that committee?
I'm sorry?
Are you on that committee?
No.
No. John, could you send a note to them and say,
Bruce Fry's the chair on that one.
who?
Bruce
Is-
Fry.
Is it Bruce? Oh,
It's Bruce.
I'll talk to him. I'll talk to him directly then.
And I
It's
think
Bruce Fry.
that they're planning on another meeting late April.
All right. I'll talk to him and put that on his agenda and come up with. Good idea.
Okay.
There's a signal, I see a concrete truck riding right down Garfield Parkway right now. So,
I think there's a house at the corner of Pennsylvania and Ocean View Parkway that's like, they've got a pool in the backyard, as Susan pointed out, and it's like, I bet you that there is 5% pervious area on that lot.
Yeah,
Well-
yeah.
And so,
the
And
pool
there's a
is
couple
the
more
big thing
pools
now
coming,
that-
right? There's a couple more pools coming, aren't they?
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
gonna be,
Oh, yeah.
there's gonna be more.
Hope
and
these people have a lot of algicide when it floods.
And it's not just pools too, because and I'm sure Susan goes through this also, but like, our clients are, especially with their vacation houses, just like, I want no maintenance. I just want to get here and be on vacation, and like, one way to have no maintenance is to just concrete your whole thing and never deal
It's
with
no
it.
maintenance, and I don't want to share, with this pandemic, they want everything right at the house. I've got a house that's putting in close to $200,000 in improvements to their rear yard with stuff, including the pool, the patio, the automatic pool cover, all sorts of other stuff.
Restaurants.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's a big booming business right now, and it's not going away. It's
Well, I guess
Well,
my question would be, how quickly do we want to address this situation?
Well, again, I'll talk to Bruce. Susan, could we legally not say you can't put a pool in?
no, but I don't think you can, but we can then say something about pervious and impervious. But I don't know if we exacerbated the problem or not when we added parking to these places with lots of bedrooms as well, because they then have to add more parking spaces.
Yes.
So,
So the way that Rehoboth deals with that is they have a maximum. I'm not saying we just copy what Rehoboth does, but just as an example, Rehoboth has a maximum allowable impervious area based on a percentage of your lot, and you get down into like analyzing the square footage of a paver to
Right.
figure out how much, and so your pool is counted as impervious area, your house is counted as impervious area, so it becomes not just like, well, we can cover 40% or 38% of our lot with our house. We can cover 50 whatever percent of our property with impervious area. And if we want a pool, that means we can only do this size house to make that work.
right, oh, no, they limit the size of your house if you have a pool. But that's
Yeah.
because of the pool ordinance, and they didn't
Yeah.
want pools and everything.
Yeah, but I'm just, and so in that case, what they would do with parking is say, instead of like a big, 8 by 19 pad, you might do 2 parking strips.
Or we just tell them all that all exterior parking pads have to be pervious.
Right, which would be a much more simple way to do it.
Yeah, that would be so easy to take care of then, and then I'm done.
Yeah, and that-
Patios.
And that,
Patios could use pervious pavers,
yeah.
pervious concrete.
And that could be done without like necessarily going through an ad hoc committee, and and I'm not saying we don't do that, but I'm just saying as a stopgap in the meantime, a sentence that says all pavers have to be, any paving has to be pervious.
That would be probably a great way to start it
I like
without
that.
having to calculate.
Right, Susan, for the next meeting, could you have that written up for us?
I can take a look at it. I
Yeah.
will tell you that this is, I'm drowning right now.
Oh, okay.
In permits.
I can-
doing
Scott?
I'll draft
this.
I'll draft a sentence to share with you, Susan.
Well, that'd be
We can
great.
go
No,
back.
can I get an agreement on that? I'm going to bring it on to the next meeting. But
Mr.
I'd like an
Chairman.
agreement.
I honestly thought that we had in fact done that for projects going forward about pervious surfaces.
Yes, I know.
Whether it was driveways, and it was all after the South Atlantic project was done, which that roadway is pervious materials.
The town did that out of the
that-
goodness of their hearts.
But that we had in fact done that, because when we had a discussion about the PRD up here on Garfield, there was the access road was gonna be pervious, and there was concern about making sure that they maintained it
Maintained
in
it,
a way that,
But that was their design for their stormwater. That had nothing to do with ordinances.
Yeah, the reason I know this is because I think I'm the one that brought it up a year ago or whatever, and I don't remember us doing anything about it in the meantime. And Susan's right, that PRD, instead of doing a big drainage pond, what they were saying is we'll do all this pervious paving, we'll capture this much stormwater. So it was like, well, if that's the case, then you have to maintain that as pervious paving in
That's right.
perpetuity.
I recall that.
Yeah, I remember that. But I think, John, what you're talking about happened several years ago, is, before you got on, Scott, because, I don't know.
Got the memo.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's I can tell you that it's not in the
Oh,
building
no,
code in any
yeah.
place that I've seen it.
yeah. Well, Scott, I'd appreciate if you could write something down, as you said, at least a stopgap, if in fact we agree and the town council agrees, but, and then we'll put that on the next agenda as a separate item,
Yes.
okay? Everybody agree with that? Okay, very good. Thank you. Well, that worked out well. Okay, Lou?
Well, I'm actually going by Kathy's and Diane's little paper here. So we did, I think that's, environmental protection was the last one, wasn't it? Yeah. That's one of the group. And, again, a lot of those things are good, and also add on the purchase of the next group of properties that is adjacent to the Walcheck property. Any other thing we could add as far as, and also, you think, John, from an environmental point of view, that you've done something different since then, or about to do something? Sorry.
I think if you just throw on any conservation efforts,
Yes, that,
such as you know, we're in the budget this coming year, there is the stabilization of the Lake Bethany land spit. That's a conservation effort, as
Yes.
that strip of land is a wildlife habitat that also secures that embankment there, so sediment doesn't flow into the loop canal.
Yeah.
And then moving forward, there might be other plans of dredging, possible marsh creation, but I think all of that mainly falls under conservation efforts.
well, but it's also under the, but it does affect the environment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think if you put something together for that, and we could add that into the comprehensive plan,
Sure.
both, accomplished goals and also future goals that we're gonna do.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other?
Yeah, I think, I think we have a lot to deal with, and I think there's a lot of nice things, I think, that will be very receptive at the state level, from just the outline that we have. Use that as a basis for expanding it. I think we'll be all right here. I really believe that we'll be able to do this pretty well, and I'll get the town to send up the University of Delaware to get all the tables and charts updated, and that'll be a big help too. I think I'll do that now, rather than waiting for the for us to be totally done.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to thank, any other comments before we end this portion? Okay, I'd like to thank Diane and Kathy for the effort they put together. I'm sure they were drinking tea when they did it, because it follows through pretty well. And it wasn't done on March 17th, so that's good. Okay, if there are no other questions, our summary of what we've accomplished today. We approved the one plan, the discussion of the 10-year plan, the update of that, the fact that some of us old guys just do not remember what happened 4 or 5 years ago, so that Scott will help us remember. We could probably remember enough for a day so that we right, so that we can do the
You didn't have breakfast, that's why I don't remember.
Scary, it's our long-term memory that we're worried about now.
exactly.
I actually have something funny to send to all of you, since you mentioned that subject about memory and older. I have something really funny to send you. So, a joke, somebody sent me a joke. I'm still laughing after I read it. So.
It's good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
talking about breakfast, the Ocean View Family Diner now has homemade Danishes, like cheese Danish. I went there this morning, and instead of having breakfast, I had one of these. It was enough for all of breakfast, so I will just put in there as a
Is this a free
See,
advertisement?
John, what'd I tell you? Get those donuts.
Yeah, come on, John. Stop in there, bring it back. We'll buy them off you.
Before you showed up, we had a discussion, and we're surprised you're showing up because, you don't have your after meeting donuts anymore. So, but anyway, we will discuss pervious, impervious coverage at the next meeting, and hopefully we can come up with, as Susan and Scott spoke about, a good, maybe quick fix, and then have the ad hoc committee continue to evaluate it based on that.
Yeah, I'll also talk to Bruce Fry
And
directly.
you'll let
Yeah.
Bruce know what we're doing?
Yeah, because I think that comes under their purview,
Okay.
and maybe let them take the lead on this.
Well, the only problem is we're meeting at the end of April, and then the next thing you know, it's September, before something happens. Okay,
Going back to our favorite subject, the Onifray property,
the what?
Serenity.
I forget all about that.
Yeah,
I would
That's-
love to.
That's in the impervious.
That's, go ahead.
I would love to forget that whole thing. I want to bring you up to date in that our letter to proceed that Mike sent expires on April 20th. And she has the property up for sale. The many problems with it is she has it up for sale, but she and her partner are no longer partnering, and he owns the drawings.
He owns what?
The drawings.
Oh,
Yeah.
he owns the drawings.
Right.
And they can't release them to her. And my understanding is that he might possibly be willing to sell them to whoever might buy the property. Obviously, they can't get 20% of the construction done by April 20th. So they have to either let it die, and the code is very vague on this. There isn't really much said except that the Planning Commission can extend the letter of approval to proceed. That's all it says. Doesn't say for how long, doesn't give a method. I have told them they have to send a letter requesting to be put on the agenda, but I haven't heard from them.
Wait a minute. I'm a little confused here. She's under the ability because she's the owner of the original owner of the property, so she is not. She could develop that property as if when she originally owned it, but once she sells it, doesn't that go away?
No, we had that
Right.
looked at by the attorneys, and our code says that once preliminary approval is given, they can sell it with the plans for the PRD. So it could have happened a while ago, it never did. It's contentious between, I didn't want to get into between the two parties. But yeah, a developer could purchase it from her once it's approved, and she has owned it up to preliminary. That guy disappeared, has still the plans, but he was the one who was the client for the engineering firm and paid for him. So he won't give them to her, and there's something. So,
Is
number
that-
one is there's no plans unless they broker a deal, and I've heard that he wants 50,000, but that's hearsay. I don't know if that's true or not. And the other thing is that our letter of approval to proceed expires. I don't know, it doesn't say in the code that once it's expired, then it can still be extended, or if she has to ask for an extension before it expires. But I have,
Is that another area of the code we should,
that's in subdivision.
yeah, but I'm sure there's another area of the code that we should make less,
Less vague.
yes.
Well, you wouldn't think this would happen, so, only with this property.
Well,
So that may be on the agenda next
Okay.
month to hear why the planning commission might want to extend this, but I just letting you know.
John?
I want to choose my words carefully because I don't want to jeopardize things going forward, but I thought that the letter to proceed, based on the approval, that had a finite term, that if on the 20th of April of 2021, if there hadn't been 20% of the project done, it was over. And
Yeah, that's my understanding. I thought my understanding too.
It's not so finite
Gotcha.
in the
all right,
code.
well,
That's another area I think we should clarify. That they have to come back and, they have to really submit a whole new plan, wouldn't they? I mean, normally. Is that what they would have to do?
It's not
No, I
that
mean,
clear.
but
in-
I'm talking about in the future.
Oh, in the
Is
future,
this-
if it, well, unless there were extenuating circumstances. What if there were, I don't know, weather issues, or I don't know, but it's
COVID
something that
issues.
maybe has more steps to it to clarify how this would have to go forward. But they've, I mean, obviously done nothing, so.
How many more of these properties are there? I mean, are we talking about solving a problem for 3 more?
Yeah, something, there's that one. Well, I don't think that's, yeah, the Cooper property, but is one. The one on Garfield is too small and changed hands. Probably just those. I can't think of another large tract.
I mean, I guess even with that property, they could, as it's written now, they could keep coming and asking for extensions. There's no limit on, because the language is so vague, there's no limit on it.
But you don't have to give an extension. I
Exactly
think
what
there
I was
has
gonna
to be
say.
Some
just
reasonable
don't have to do it.
Yeah.
reason why this is at this point,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I mean, that's true. We wouldn't have to give an extension, but they could also just, I do agree that there could be extenuating circumstances, weather, acts of God, whatever, that might say you can't get this done and you couldn't get this done reasonably in that first year. But you could also just write in something that says, you know, at the planning commission's discretion, you could be granted an additional year or something.
Yes.
To put a finite.
Right, but
point
maybe
on it.
there's something that says with no activity, it does expire. Because,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
you could be in
Yeah,
the middle of a
exactly.
project or,
Yeah,
Have
I
a
think
late
that's
start or
key
something.
is, if there's no activity at all, then, you know, all that other stuff, weather and act of God, doesn't make any sense, does it?
No. The only thing that doesn't bother me is no activity is no activity, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
well, I know, but they're selling it and I've gotten a couple of dozen calls
I
on
guess
it.
you've got the activity.
Well, no, what the thing is they're selling it as if it's 5 lots, and I've had to correct that numerous times. As no, it's not, there's no lot lines, it's not 5 lots, and then tell them all the issues with it. But I know that a couple of the developers have sought to going, well, you know, okay, if we do this, then yeah, and they try to negotiate to buy the plans. I haven't heard back from any of them.
Yeah.
But there was interest in having a reasonable developer, these are not small companies, take it over.
Yes.
Susan, Does she have anybody repping her now other than her son, or?
Nope.
Because she seems not to,
Be careful, be careful.
she seems not to,
She could use some representation.
yes, that's the best way to put it. She could, because she,
I-
she had a contract purchaser, correct?
I know, and I've talked to them, and I've told them that I want them to make this happen. It didn't happen this meeting. They will have to do that at the April meeting. I talked to a friend of theirs recently who said he was going to go back and talk to them, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I don't have a problem one more time if you decide to give her more, tell
Well,
her
I
again.
think they
It's
have
up to
to
you.
come in with a plan
Yeah.
or an idea of how, maybe it doesn't have to be a year, but something that says, we're close to getting all these things resolved. Here's what, we want to do, or
And
something.
She has to do something essentially either, well, she probably can't get anything done there, but within 2 weeks so it can be advertised.
Yeah.
So
But,
she has
well,
2 weeks
it-
about.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I would only opine that, at least from my perspective, putting a for sale sign up does not fall under the rubric of working on the property.
I think I'll disagree because I know that they don't have the money to proceed with it, and their partner has dropped out. They are trying to, I think, sell it with the potential to make that PRD work, knowing the issues at hand. So, I mean, that's how it's being advertised, is that they have this approved, but these are the other issues. So I think they were trying to find a solution.
Well, if the letter to proceed were to terminate, that certainly doesn't foreclose the opportunity for a new buyer to in fact make an application, and
A new buyer cannot, without those plans, a new buyer cannot make an application for a PRD. The property is too small.
Yeah, she was grandfathered.
She's grandfathered.
She was grandfathered, so that would disappear with her all those plans were approved prior to that, so,
Yes.
yes. But it's all,
No, and the question of how many, there's one more up that stretch of Garfield that has that potential with the same owner.
yes.
And she does understand that, correct? Or she has been told that.
I have had discussions with her and her son, yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I think
If you recall, we had very interesting meetings with the owner, so,
it would have to be on a Saturday,
yeah,
I guess.
so, I mean, that was,
I mean, a Friday.
it was, it's been an ongoing issue for many, many years.
So, okay, well, thanks, Susan.
But again, I think it's something we should clarify, make less ambiguous in the code. Even though there are very few properties left, but they're high-end properties, so at the end of the day, we're talking about a significant amount of money there.
Yeah, I agree. I just think if there's a clean way to put a finite point on it, rather than like kind of rewriting that whole section of the code, just saying, you know.
But let's say, like you suggested,
Yeah.
come to Planning and Zoning Commission to justify why you need an extension.
Yeah, and Susan's point also. So I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's summarized. Any other questions, comments, or thoughts? If there not, I'll entertain a motion.
move adjournment.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.